For my project, I'm presenting on the Colonial Pipeline attacks that occurred in May of 2021. This was a Russian hack of a major US pipeline that left many of the people in the country without gas. So, there are many reasons why this is a relevant and important topic for us to study, but I believe one of the main ones is that the expectation versus reality. So, for years, the government has been running intricate simulations regarding a cyber attack that could potentially happen to a power grid on the gas pipelines of the United States. When it did happen, however, it looked very different than what everyone was expecting. This is important to look at because it can help us to think about what the impact of the actual attack that is occurring and what effects will come based on specific targeting. When we look at this attack, we can see that there is a big difference in just running simulations and actual attacks that occur. Another reason why this is important to learn about is that it highlights how large and impactful these cyber attacks that we are learning about can actually be. This one specifically can have the ability to shut down a major corporation and turn and send an entire world superpower into complete panic. The things that we are learning about in this class can seem small and inoffensive, but in reality, they can actually have huge real world impacts. And this highlights the importance of the specific class and how it can have a real world application outside of this classroom. And it kind of helps us to think that, what we're learning about can help. So the Colonial Pipeline was founded in 1962 and headquartered in Alpharetta, Georgia. It's one of the largest pipeline companies in the US and one of the largest refined pipeline companies for refined oil products in the entire world. The hackers in this case that specifically hacked into the Colonial Pipeline was a group called DarkSide. So DarkSide is a ransomware group that emerged in August of 2020 and has become one of the most prolific ransomware groups in the field of cybersecurity completely. DarkSide also provides a ransom as a service, which serves to allow cyber criminals to rent out their materials to conduct attacks. So cyber criminals are using DarkSide's materials, and then they can commit their attacks. It is said to have originated in Eastern Europe, specifically Russia, but it's not entirely known where exactly it was first originated from. And they have DarkSide has a pattern in their attacks. First, they gain access to all of the data that a business has, and then their software encrypts every file in that database, which forces the original and targeted company to comply with DarkSide's demands of whatever they want, ransom money, power, so that they don't have their data leaked or harmed. So the specific attack, on April 29th, 2021, hackers gained entry into the networks of Colonial Pipeline through a virtual private network account, VPN. And this allowed hackers to remotely access the company's computer network. The specific account was not in use at the time, but the account could still be used to access the network. The password was found on the dark web in a list of leaked passwords. So sometimes there's just a bunch of leaked passwords, and in this case, one of them was used to hack into Colonial Pipeline. Investigators are unsure of how these specific hackers got the password, and it may never be known, according to Charles Carmichael, who's the senior VP of a large-scale cybersecurity firm. So the VPN account did not use multi-factor authentication, so they were able to just hack in easily. And as a result, the hackers were able to breach Colonial Pipeline's network solely using a compromised username and password. There was no other checks. They just needed the username and password, and they were able to get in. A week later, on May 7th, an employee at Colonial Pipeline found a ransom note demanding for cryptocurrency. Executives were notified, and within a few hours, the entire pipeline was shut down. This is monumental because this marks the first time in its over 50-year lifespan that Colonial Pipeline shut down. A company this big has never shut down over a cybersecurity attack. And shortly after the hack, and the company shutting down, Colonial Pipeline paid the hackers $4.4 million in ransom. So they completed the ransom because they didn't have any other way of stopping this attack from happening. So the immediate effects of the attack were huge and detrimental. Half of the US gas was out of service. Over 90% of gas stations in DC had no gas signs put up. The national average price for a gallon of gas pushed past $3 for the first time since 2014. And here you can see that it was huge. North Carolina, over 65% of their gas was out. Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, the entire East Coast was completely gone, which caused huge gas lines, crises all over the country. The over 100 million gallons of fuel transported from the company was halted for the week of its shutdown. The company was able to get up and running, but it didn't stop them from having huge and costly effects. So Colonial Pipeline has built their defense mechanisms by using multi-factor authentication after this attack happened, and they ensured that it won't happen again. So they made sure that they put in place security measures where if someone breached their passwords, they were still able to defend against this. Companies everywhere has taken this as a huge warning and has looked to boost their cybersecurity and make sure they're ready for an attack like this. This is really important because cybersecurity experts say that the next attack, and they're adamant that there will be more attacks, could be a lot worse if measures aren't taken at the highest levels to prevent it. Not just that this huge attack helped to warn, Colonial Pipeline and helped them prevent measures, but it also showed attackers everywhere that they can get into these major corporations. And a lot of these major corporations don't have the security that we think they would have. There has never been an attack like this. And thus this provides many interesting insights into what can be learned from this attack. It is important to note that modern day ransomware attackers have huge real world implications. This was the first time it was highlighted how society can be affected by these attacks. So this also, it did help protect it and help highlight for companies everywhere that they need to up their security, but it also showed that, these impacts can be huge. So attackers doing this are more likely to do it again after this. Another thing this highlights is how limited the government's ability to protect against cybersecurity attacks are. The government was not able to do anything. Colonial Pipeline had to pay the ransom money and shut down. The government wasn't able to figure out who did it fast enough so they could stop it. While the government can ensure parts of the energy system to adopt cybersecurity standards, they can't require gas and oil pipelines to do so, which are the most vulnerable. So this was both a huge warning for security for cybersecurity companies, but also it was a showing towards attackers that this stuff can have real world impacts. So the two questions, the first one is, how did DarkSide get access into the Colonial Pipeline site? And what specific security measures did they exploit in their hacking? And the next question is, what immediate impact did this hack have on the country? And what insights for the cybersecurity world as a whole can be gained from learning about this attack? And then I'll go back to my sources.